Very pleasant good morning to everyone. We are going to see about the second unit prose, The Night the Ghost Got In by James Grover Thurber. At the same time, it is a funny incident that caused confusion among the family members. This incident is taken from the autobiography of James Grover Thurber. His autobiography is My Life and Hard Times, and it was published in November 17, 1915. Let me introduce the character first. Character sketch. James Grover Thurber. He plays an important role in this story. Then Roy and Herman. They are James brothers. The next one mother, next one grandfather, next one Godwin, the neighbor. So one day while he was coming out of the bathroom, he heard a sound. Footsteps of somebody else walking in the down floor. So it was in the late night. But late night means the early morning, 1 o'clock. He was just coming out of the bathroom. He heard a sound. So he suspected the footsteps to be the sound of a ghost. So it was unusual footsteps. So he was totally nervous and he don't know what to do. So he just went near to the staircase and he was just looking at the down floor. But the light was not visible on the dining table. But in other places the light was visible. But he could sense only the footsteps. He could hear only the footsteps of somebody else walking. So he just alerted his brother. Herman, who was sleeping in the next room, and at the same time he was in deep sleep. When he disturbed his sleep, he was somewhat angry with him. At the same time, both of them were looking in the down floor, but they could hear only the footsteps of somebody else walking. Then they went inside their respective rooms, since they were very nervous. So when they went inside the room, they slammed the door. When they slammed the door, mother awakened from the bed, and by the disturbance of the slamming the door. So let us see the story from the textbook. I will read and explain one by one. The night the ghost got into our house on night of November 17, 1915 raised such a hullabaloo of misunderstandings that I am sorry I didn't just let it keep on walking and go to bed. Its advent caused my mother to throw a shoe through a window of the next door and ended up with my mother shooting the patrolman. Patrolman means policeman. I am sorry, and therefore, as I have said, that I ever paid any attention to the footsteps. They began about 1:15 in the morning, a rhythmic, quick, sudden walking around the dining room table. My mother was asleep in one room upstairs, and my brother Herman in another. Grandfather was in the attic in the old walnut bed, which, as you will remember, once fell of my father. I had just stepped out of the bathroom and was busily rubbing myself with the towel when I heard the steps. Here, they come to the fifth line. Grandfather was in the attic. What do you mean by attic? Note down the meaning. Attic means it is an open space at the top of the house and just below the roof. Attic means it is an open space at the top of the house and just below the roof. That is called as attic. They were the steps of a man walking rapidly. Rapidly means quickly. Rapidly means quickly. Around the dining table downstairs, the light from the bathrooms shone down the back steps, which dropped directly into the dining room. I could see faint shine of plates on the plate rail. I couldn't see the table. The steps kept going round and round the table at regular intervals. A board creaked when it was trod upon. I supposed first that it was my father or my brother Roy, who had gone to Indianapolis but were expected home at any time. I suspected next it was a burglar. Burglar means thief. Burglar means, note down the meaning, burglar means thief. It did not enter my mind until later that it was a ghost. After the walking had gone on for perhaps 3 minutes, I tiptoed to Herman's room. I hissed in the dark and shaking him, he said in the low, hopeless tone of a despondent birch. Despondent means hopeless. Despondent means hopeless. He always half suspected that something would get him in the night. I told him who I was. There was something downstairs, I said. He got up and followed me to the head of the back stairs. The steps had ceased. Herman looked at me in some alarm. I had only the bath towel around my waist. He wanted to go back to bed. I gripped his arm. So here, from the above paragraph, it is mentioned the story starts with James Grover Turner. While coming out of the bathroom, he could hear the footstep of somebody else walking. So he suspected. He waited for 3 minutes. He could hear continuously. He could hear the footsteps of somebody else. Finally, he sensed that it could be his brother or his father, who might have gone to the Indianapolis. They might have returned to the home. Finally, he concluded that it was not their sound. At the same time, it was an unusual sound. So he thought it could be the presence of the ghost inside the house. So he was totally confused. And then next, he was totally confused. Same time, he immediately he had a doubt that it could be the act of the burglars. Burglars means thief. So he was thinking for some time. Later, he could finalize that it was not the burglars, but it could be the presence of the ghost. Finally, then he wake up his brother Herman, who was in the next room. He was in deep sleep. So whenever he woke up from the deep sleep, he was totally disturbed, and at the same time he says usually unwanted things that happens to him during night time. He thought it could be the dream. So finally he grabbed his arm and told he was James Grover. So when he introduced as James Grover, he told he was very fed up and he was very tired. He wanted to go to sleep. So when he was about to sleep, he grabbed his hand and sought something to him. Let us see in the next paragraph. There was something down there, I said. Instantly the steps began again. Instantly means at once or immediately. Instantly means at once or immediately. Circled the dining room table like a man running and started up the stairs towards us heavily, two at a time. The light still shone palely down the stairs. We saw nothing coming. We only heard the steps. Herman rushed into the room and slammed the door, and I slammed shut at the stair top and held my knees against it. After a long minute, I slowly opened it again. There was nothing there. There was no sound. None of us ever heard the ghost again. So here, when he revealed to his brother Herman some presence of the ghost and also the footsteps. They could hear the footsteps in the down floor. So they were just observing the footsteps from the top, and they could hear the footstep continuously. But there was no bright light that the dining room is not visible. Dining table is not visible. Only the footsteps. Only dim light is visible. So they could hear only the footsteps. On hearing the footsteps, they were totally frightened, and they got back into the room and they slammed the door harshly. Later, James he opened the door and he saw what was happening there, and he couldn't hear any footsteps for a few minutes. Then come to the next paragraph. Slamming of the doors had aroused mother. She peered out of her room. "What on earth are you boys doing?" she demanded. Herman ventured out of his room. Ventured means came out. "Nothing," he said gruffly, but he was in color, a light green. "What was all that running around downstairs?" said mother. So she had heard the steps too. She just looked at her burglars. She shouted intuitively. I tried to quieten her by starting lightly downstairs. "Come on, Herman," I said. I will stay with mother," he said. She was all excited. I stepped back onto the landing. "Don't either of you go a step," said mother. "We will call the police." Since the phone was downstairs, I didn't see how we were going to call the police, nor did I warn the police. But mother made one of her quick, incomparable decision. She flung up a window of her bedroom, which faced the bedroom windows of the house of the neighbor, picked up a shoe and whacked it through a pane of glass across. Whacked means struck something forcefully. Whacked means struck something forcefully, not on me. Through a pane of glass across the narrow space that separated the two houses. Glass jingled into the bedroom, occupied by a retired engraver named Bodwell. Engraver means one who writes something on the wall, or one who writes on the stones or something else. Named Bodwell and his wife. Bodwell had been for some years in rather means somewhat, a bad way, and was subject to mind attacks. Almost everybody we knew and lived near had some kinds of attacks. So here, while they were slamming the doors very forcefully, this awakened the mother. At the same time, she don't know what was happening there, and when she came out of the room, she could sense something going wrong in the house. Later, she could also hear the footsteps of somebody else. So she here James Turber calls Herman also Herman to accompany him to go to the downstairs, but Herman he was not courageous. Courageous means he was covered. Opposite of courageous means covered. So since Herman was covered, Herman told he would stay with his mother, and he go to the down floor. So James also did not go. Finally, mother she intended to go to the down floor. She intended to call to the police. She wished to call to the police immediately, but the phone was in the down floor. That made her not to go down. So there was no other way. Finally, she got an incomparable idea. That means she got a the strange decision that she could throw the shoes on the neighbor's window. So she threw the door on the neighbor's window. That was the bedroom of Bodwell. He was an engraver. Engraver means one who does artistic painting or something, draws something on the wall or engraves on the stone. He was on the bedroom where when he heard the unusual sound, he got up from the bed with shock, and at the same time he had cardiac attack earlier. So he couldn't tolerate the shock, and he got up from the bed. That's all it is. Come to next paragraph. It was now about 2 o'clock of the moonless night. Clouds hung black and low. Baldwin was at the window in the minute, shouting forthing a little, shaking his fist. We will sell the house and go back to Portia. We could hear Mrs. Baldwin saying, it was some time before mother got through to Baldwin. Burglars, she shouted, burglars in the house, Herman, and I hadn't dared to tell her that it was not the burglars but ghost, for she was even more afraid of ghosts than the burglars. Baldwin at first thought that she meant that were burglars in his house, but finally he quieted down and called the police for us over the extension phone by his bed. After he had disappeared from the window, mother suddenly made as if to throw another shoe, not because there was further need of it, but as she later explained, because of the thrill of heaving the shoe through the window glass had enormously taken her fancy. I prevented her. Enormously means greatly or extremely. Enormously means greatly or extremely, and taken her fancy. Fancy means illusion. ILLUSION. Fancy means illusion. ILLUSION. Illusion or imagination that is not real. Here, when she threw the shoes over the window of the Baldwin's bedroom, he was totally shocked and he got up from the bed. And Mrs. Baldwin told Baldwin that they could sell the house and go to Portia again. So that would be a peaceful place to stay there. So when she told like that, later she told her husband Baldwin. They could hear the sound of the mother. On hearing this, Baldwin told that some problems might have happened in the house, burglars or something else might have happened in the house. For seeking help, they might have called us. They told like that, and finally, Mrs. Baldwin told that it could be the presence of the ghost. If we tell, they cannot tolerate it. They were very scared and they cannot tolerate it. Finally, let us call to the police, and he called police to the extension phone that was in his bed. When he went away from the window, when Baldwin went away from the window, mother again threw the shoes on the window. In order to tolerate the emotions, she threw another shoes on the window. Come to the next paragraph. The police were on hands in a commendable short time. A Ford sedan full of them, 2 on motorcycles, and a patrol wagon. Wagon means car. with about 8 in it, and a few reporters. They began banging at our front door. Flashlights shoot streak of gleam up and down the walls, across the air, down the walk between our house and Boardwell's. Open up, cried a harsh voice. We are men from headquarters. I wanted to go down and let them in, since there they were, but mother couldn't hear of it. You haven't a switch on, she pointed out. You'd catch your death. I would the towel around me again. Finally, the cops put their shoulders to our big heavy front door with its thick beveled glass and broke in it, and I could hear the rending of the woods. Rending means biting. Rending of the wood, and a splash of glass on the floor of the hall. The lights played all over the living room and crisscrossed nervously. Crisscrossed means went over. Crisscross means went over. Nervously means frightened. In the dining room, stared into hallways, shoot upon the front stairs, and finally up the back. They caught me standing in my towel at the top. A heavy policeman bounded up the steps. Who are you? He demanded. I live here, I said. The officer in charge reported to mother. No sign of anybody, lady. He said, must have got away. What would he like? There were 2 or 3 of them. Mother said, whooping and carrying of slamming doors. Funny, said the cop. All your windows and doors was locked on the inside, tight as a tick. So, when Bodal informed the police, within a short time, the police reached the spot, and they were knocking at the doors, and there was no one ready to open immediately. So finally, they entering the house by breaking the a door and the glass of the house. And when they gained entering the house, here John James Glover, he was just wearing a towel below his vest. The same time, when police on seeing John Turner, they asked him, who are you? He informed that he was a resident of the house. He was living in that house. And finally, when they entered the house, they switched all the lights and everything. It was completely bright, and they could not trace a little evidence there. They entered the mother. What happened in the house? She told there was slamming of the doors, and she got up from the bed, and something was happening. We don't know what was happening there. Come to the next paragraph. Downstairs, they could hear the tromping of the other police. Police were all over the place. Doors were yanked open, drawers were yanked open, windows were shot up and pulled down, furniture fell with dumb thumbs. A half dozen policemen emerged out of the darkness of the front hallway upstairs. They began to ransack the floor. Ransack means search thoroughly. Ransack means search thoroughly. SCARCH THOROUGHLY. THOROUGHLY. Ransacked the floor and pulled beds from the walls and tore cloths off the hooks in the closets. Closets means cupboard. CUPBOARD. Closet means cupboard. Pulled suitcase and boxes off shelves. One of them found an old feather that Roy had won in the pool tournament. Look here, Joe, he said, stumping it with a big paw. The cock named Joe took it and turned it over. What is it? He asked me. It's a old feather over guinea pig used to sleep on. Guinea pig means it is a small variety of pig. It is a small variety of pig that is used for flesh as food. Yeah, used to sleep on. I said it was true that the pet guinea pig we once had would never sleep anywhere except on the feather, but I should never have said so. Joe and the other dog looked at me a long time. They put the feather back on the shelf. Here they put all the lights on and they couldn't see. The room was full of brightness and they couldn't get any proper evidence. Only feather was there. And that was owned by Joe. At the same time, it was used by the pet guinea pig. It was used by the pet guinea pig for sleeping. Without this, it would not sleep. At the same time, they pulled all the cloths from the shelves, and also they tore all the clothes that was hang on the closet. At the same they pulled all the furnitures, they dragged all the furnitures here and there, but they said even then they couldn't get any proper evidence. Come to the next paragraph. No sign or nothing, said the cock, who had first spoken to mother. The lady seems hysterical, and they all nodded. Hysterical means uncontrolled emotions. Hysterical means uncontrolled emotions. The lady seemed hysterical. They all nodded, but said nothing. Just looked at me in the small silence. We all heard a creaking in the attic. Grandfather was turning over in bed. What's that? What was that? Snapped Joe. 5 or 6 cops sprang from the attic door before I could intervene and explain. I realized that it would be bad if they burst in our grandfather unannounced or even announced. He was going through a phase in which he believed that the general men understudying hammering by Stonewall Jackson was beginning to retreat and even desert. So here, finally they got entry into the attic where the grandfather was. They could hear some sound. So Joe tried to stop that because grandfather would not like anybody else going visiting him his room with prior appointment or without informing or without informing. He did not like anybody else to go into his room. That was the case there. At the same time, here the grandfather, he was in the thought that he was in the American Civil War. He was working as a soldier in the American Civil War. At the same time, he belongs to Medsmen. So that was a thought there. So anyone who intervenes his thought or anyone who visits him, he will get angry. So that was the condition there. We will see the next part, the next class. Before that, we are going to see some questions, in text questions in page number 30, 31 and 32. There are 6 questions. I will read one by one. Listen here. Those who have guide, you can look at the guide and study. Those who don't have guide, I will update a copy of the Copy of answers in your WhatsApp. You can go through that. You can study the sixth question. Here, where was the author when he heard the noise? Where was the author when he heard the noise? Answer was, the author had just stepped out of the bathroom when he heard the noise. The author had just stepped out of the bathroom when he heard the noise. It was there in page number 30. The next question, page number 30 is the next question. What did the author think the unusual sound was? First, he thought that it was his father or his brother Roy. It was in page number 30, the right side top. I supposed at first that it was my father or my brother Roy who had gone to Indianapolis but were expected at home. That was the answer. I read the answer. He thought it was his father or his brother Roy. Next, he suspected that it was a burglar. Burglar means thief. Later on, he thought it was a ghost. First, he thought it could be the arrival of his brother or his father, brother Roy or his father. Next, he suspected that it was a burglar means thief. In confusion later, he thought that it could be the ghost. Then come to the next question, page number 31, right side. Question number C. What were the various sounds of the brothers heard when they went downstairs? The brother heard like a man running and started up the stairs towards him. They thought that they were coming two at a time. They saw nothing but only heard the steps. I'll read the answer once more. I'll read the question and answer once more. What were the various sounds that the brothers heard when they went downstairs? Brothers heard like a man running and started up the stairs towards them. They thought that they were coming two at a time and they saw nothing but only heard the steps. Next question. Who were the narrator's neighbors? I just told you who are the narrator's neighbor. Mr. Bodle and Mrs. Bodle. Mr. Bodle and Mrs. Bodle are the narrator's neighbor. How did the Bodle react when the shoe was thrown into the house? I'll read the answer. Just pay attention here. Mr. Bodle was shouting, forthing a little, shaking his fist. Mrs. Bodle wanted to sell their house and go to Poria. For some years, he had been in a bad way and was subjected to a mild attack. So study all these 6 questions and answers. If you don't have guide, you can get a copy of a photo in your WhatsApp, so that you can note down in your notebook the question as well as the answer, and you can study one by one. Please try to get the guide as early as possible. Whatever guide that is available in the shop, you can get it. Thank you. We will meet in the next day.